in the rain. There's, of course, a way that you can go around that, which is going to be with the Mega Charizard.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something that sets the sun and changes that Weather Ball into a fire type attack. But it is not going to be either of those Megas hitting the field right now, or even Pokemon hitting the field. We've got the Dragonite and the Sneasler versus the Garchomp and the Basket Legion.
The Dragonite, you know, we're so used to the physical Dragonite, but whether it's Scale Shot or like Choice Band, Extreme Speed, but the Mega Dragonite is much more inclined for the special attacks and will be carrying both Dragon Pulse and Hurricane. Hurricane being a really, really great option when the rain is up. We might get a little bit of a weather war going on between these two trainers throughout the battle, but no weather just yet, and no possibility for it on this turn.
You don't need the weather, though, if you're the Dragonite, if you're going to be just focusing on the Dragon Pulse and the Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed, of course, going to give you a nice way to be able to get some increased damage down, or if you see the Fake Out coming into that Garchomp, I feel like that's just going to end up being a Dragon Pulse to KO it on this turn. Fake Out to stop it, Dragon Pulse to follow up, and that is going to be basically a one-hit knockout into this Garchomp.
Is a one-hit knockout into Garchomp, but Basket Legion can respond. Do you rather break the multi-scale on the Dragonite or potentially get a big knockout into Sneasler with Liquidation? And you do just KO the Sneasler, so we're trading Pokemon right away.
I feel like I would like this trade a little bit more, though, for Tommy. I mean, the fact that you get rid of the Sneasler means that you don't actually have something that's going to be dealing big damage to like your Charizard or your Garchomp. But the problem with the Basket Legion is that, you know, you still get a chance to use the rain if that gets set up.
And your King Gambit, right? The Sneasler is a big obstacle to King Gambit. That's one of the best options you have into King Gambit in general in this metagame. And now that the King Gambit is gone, Dragonite only has resisted attacks, and the Archaludon needs the weather setup to be even neutral.
We're going to see that weather come in now. Dragonite going to preserve its multi-scale for later, as the Politoed is going to come in and set up the rain. It's going to take this Last Respects, which it actually handles quite well. Remember, it's only going to be an additional 50 base power, but that is one bulky Politoed. We have this Archaludon with the rain is going to be able to fire out these Electro Shots in one turn. That's going to be a nice special attack boost. And the King Gambit's actually going to take quite a bit of damage from that Electro Shot as well. King Gambit, though, is going to go for the Sword Stance. That's going to be a nice +2 to its attack stat.
I like the option for a Sword Stance there instead of going straight for damage. If you did go for something like a Kowtow Cleave into the Archaludon, trying to get a little bit of damage into it, maybe soften it up a little bit, you do activate its Stamina ability and boost its defense by one stage. So your next attack will do even less. But now that you've gone for the Sword Stance, you can threaten a +2 Sucker Punch at neutral defense. Won't one-hit KO it, but will still do a lot of damage and could soften it up for something like your Charizard in the back.
I'm wondering, though, how you actually get around this Archaludon. I think that's the biggest question. With the stamina boosts, you're going to continuously take less and less damage from King Gambit and Basket Legion, as those are both physical attackers. But you do have this +2 to the King Gambit, so, you know, is something like a Kowtow Cleave actually going to do a lot here? King Gambit goes for the Sucker Punch first, though, and actually, as I say that, I mean, that's not a resisted hit, that's just neutral damage. It's going to bring it down low enough that we could have potentially seen a Last Respects to follow it up. But the Archaludon is safe for now, because it's going to be the Dragonite that takes the Last Respects instead. Another Electro Shot is going to boost up this Archaludon to +2 special attack, and it's going to finish off this King Gambit for good.
King Gambit is knocked out, but that Sucker Punch was huge. Now at Last Respects, with the extra power from one more Pokemon being knocked out, could be enough to have this Basket Legion knock out that Archaludon. We are seeing Archaludon attack before the, the Basket Legion attack before the Archaludon as well. So that should be a speed advantage for that Basket Legion. If it's not Swift Swim, we don't have to worry about the weather being correct for that speed interaction. And now the multi-scale has also been broken on the Dragonite. So even though Tommy's in Pokemon disadvantage here, I think the game state might be pretty fine for him, right? You got Last Respects, will knock out anything for the rest of this game. Like, anything takes a Last Respects, it gets knocked out. If you get the sun up, you're going to be able to knock out the Archaludon or even the Politoed with the Heat Wave. You just have to be careful because William's Politoed is still lurking in the back.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? When you're down to just 2 Pokemon left, you could stall this out if you're Tommy, which means that maybe you protect the Charizard for now, hope that the Politoed switches in, and then you Mega Evolve on the next turn to overwrite that weather. But it's not going to be the case. Tommy's just going to go ahead and use Mega Evolution now and go ahead and get that Charizard to get rid of this weather. I guess you stand to lose a lot more than what you could potentially gain by going for that Protect and waiting it out. we're going to see the Archaludon protect in response as Dragonite just goes for a Dragon Pulse. Still one of the fastest Pokemon on the field. It's going to make that into a 2-hit knockout. Archaludon saves itself from a Weather Ball, but this Basculegion still gets a chance to fire off an attack. That Last Respects into the Dragonite will pick it off, and we are now down to 2 Pokemon apiece.
I think this is still a pretty fine turn for Tommy. You do give up your Sun, so when William switches the Politoed back in, the rain will be up for the rest of the game. But your Basculegion is faster than Archaludon. Again, you have the 2 boosts to the Last Respects from 2 Pokemon being knocked out. Should still be able to knock out Archaludon from here despite the 1 stamina boost. And even though Charizard can't use its Fire-type attacks very well anymore, a Water-type Weather Ball is probably still enough to knock out the Politoed. You get the double base power boost because the weather is up. You get the boost from the rain. And even this Water-type attack from a Charizard is not something we get to see too often. I think it's going to be enough to lock up this game for Tommy here.
Yeah, it's just tough because there's no way to really get through the Basculegion. I guess your hope was that you get the double protect here, and then the Politoed isn't at the receiving end of this Weather Ball, so you can fire off a Weather Ball back, but that's not going to be the case. As Charizard lands the final blow onto this Politoed, definitely not something that you see every day.
No.
And without the double protect, the Archaludon will fall to a Last Respects. And Tommy Cooleen goes up 1 game in the series.
Really well managed by Tommy there, knowing that he didn't really need to have the weather advantage in the end game there. The Politoed switching in on that Last Respects was enough to put it in range for Weather Ball. Whatever type the Weather Ball was didn't matter in the end. And knowing that the Basculegion was faster than Archaludon gave him so much more safety. He could leave the Basculegion vulnerable to that Mega Dragonite's Dragon Pulse, for example, knowing that even if it gets a critical hit, I have the Focus Sash, I'm going to be able to survive, and I will continue to threaten this Archaludon before it can run away with the game.
And getting this knockout into Sneasler was just such a big deal. You know, we talked about the fact that that seems like a really great trade for Tommy in particular. And it's like, you know, what really was going to be there to threaten something like the Garchomp? You care mostly about the Politoed, but it took so much damage. It was never going to come back in and be faster than that Garchomp to dish out an Ice Beam. That would have been kind of like the big super effective hit. So I feel like super great trade for Tommy to give up the Garchomp in favor of that Sneasler there for Billy. And we get to see what happens in this game too. Are we going to see the same reliance on the Mega Dragonite for Billy?
I think Mega Dragonite is pretty good here. Mega Dragonite is very strong into Mega Charizard Y, which gives it a big edge, right? Even if you, for example, lose a Weather War, you have the Dragonite that can still come in and deal with the Charizard. But I don't know if we're going to see the Dragonite. We get to see the Scoville and Espathra combo right off the bat.
I like this. So Espathra, kind of another one of those Pokemon that introduced in Scarlet and Violet, I feel like got a small amount of time in the sun, but I feel like we mostly saw it for being able to take advantage of gravity and hypnosis, being able to put Pokemon to sleep. But of course, Espathra has a couple of other tricks up its sleeve. Speed Boost going to keep making it faster and faster the more times that it sits on the field.
And Scoville a really cool partner for it. Of course, the Espathra really doesn't want to see King Gambit, but if King Gambit attacks while Mega Scoville uses Rage Powder, its ability will burn the King Gambit as soon as King Gambit deals damage to it. So not only do you redirect the Kowtow Cleave, you then lower the King Gambit's damage for the rest of the game.
But that's why you have the Charizard here, because one way that you could get around the Rage Powder is just by going for a Mega, oh my god, I almost said Terra. A Mega Evolution and a Heat Wave. Double Protect though here from Billy just to kind of scout out what Tommy might want to do with both of these Pokemon. We don't even see the Mega Evolution actually committed to this turn, as this is probably about as bad as it can get with the King Gambit taking advantage of that Double Protect, getting the Swords Dance off, and now what?
Very heads-up play from Tommy, and not a great Moody Boost either. By not Mega Evolving the Charizard, you accomplish 2 things. You preserve your ability to turn the sun on if William swaps Politoed in, and you're not boosting the overheat damage from that Scoville. For a Double Protect on this first turn is a very common thing with those 2 Pokemon, with the Scoville and Espathra. So a huge Swords Dance there. Now even if King Gambit gets burned, its damage output will still be what you expect.
Well, I was going to say, you gotta worry about a little bit about those Moody Boosts that the Scoville just got though, because while it is going to be on the slower side, since it did take a hit to its speed stat, it got a +2 into its special attack. So
it
now
sure
that
did.
the sun is active, you might just be throwing an overheat at that King Gambit's way, as the baton pass from this Espatra is actually going to give that speed boost that it got from its ability over to something else that's about to take the stage. It's going to be the Politoed, one of the Pokemon you talked about.
And Politoed gets a speed boost, which is cool. You do have the special attack boost from the Moody, but you've also just set up the rain, so there maybe is a chance that the King Gambit can survive an overheat here still?
I mean, it's just, even if it's not, I mean...
it's just slower.
Yeah, it is just slower. So the Kowtow is going to pick it off. You do get the Spicy Spray activated, as you said, as the Kowtow Cleave makes contact with the Scovillain. It's going to activate that ability and give a burn over to the King Gambit. But yeah, I was wondering, you know, in the rain, does it still actually fall to a +2 overheat?
Maybe. It might have been close, but unfortunately we won't get to know as the Scovillain has been knocked out. Now the Archaludon comes in. We'll have the chance to go for an Electro Shot on this turn. So despite losing the Mega Scovillain, William's not in the worst of spots. You did get the burn off into the King Gambit. You set up Archaludon to get a guaranteed +1 special attack boost. And your Politoed does have a speed boost. That could come in pretty handy if Tommy has to swap the Charizard out and back in. Politoed, depending on how it's trained, might still be faster, which could give him the opportunity to go for... We saw Charizard use a Water Weather Ball. Will we see a Politoed use a Fire Weather Ball?
Hey, you know what? Anything is possible. I feel like at this stage in the game, as we do see that Charizard go away for now, it could be the Garchomp that actually has to take this muddy water.
That's so much damage.
Yeah, I mean, in the rain, like, how could it not be? Archaludon goes for the Electro Shot. Now, if this is into the King Gambit, feels like that's just going to secure the knockout here based on how much damage we saw on the previous game. It's not the Garchomp, which would have, you know, been immune to it since it's a ground type, but King Gambit is not so lucky. A big knockout here as we look at what will come in for that King Gambit's place.
It's tough, right? You want to bring the Charizard back in to get the Sun up, but the Charizard could be vulnerable to a faster Politoed. Now the Sun is back up, though. The Muddy Water will be a reduced power, and of course, Politoed no longer has that Water-type Weather Ball. So maybe you want to... I mean, you could, like, attack with your Politoed first, get the fast Ice Beam into Garchomp to knock it out, but then you're leaving your Charizard... Leaving the Charizard open, right? You can't even Electro Shot anymore because the rain is not up.
Solar Beam.
Right.
Solar Beam the Politoed.
You could, or...
Send it into the Shadow Realm.
Or just get a big Weather Ball off into our Archaludon. You know, without that +2 Sucker Punch threat that we saw in that first game, this is going to be your best option into our Archaludon here.
Yeah, I think Weather Ball is close. You know, depending on the training of the Archaludon, it could very well just be a one-hit knockout with that weather. But you do have Protect as an option on this Archaludon, so maybe you have to bring the Espatra back in. Hope that you make it through this turn, and then you can baton pass the speed out. But for now, it is just going to be a Protect here from the Politoed as, stopping Tantrum from the Garchomp into that position. And Heat Wave coming up for the Charizard. Maybe the Archaludon actually does get through this. Oh, it's just going to be a miss of the Heat Wave entirely. So their Dragon Pulse comes out, knocks out the Garchomp, and it's just 2 Pokemon left here for Tommy in Game 2.
Rough break for Tommy. Now he has the weather disadvantage for the rest of the game. William does still have that Espatra in the back, and if he wants to swap it out, bring it back in, the Politoed, then the Electro Shot is rejuvenated. It is able to be used again. You do have to give up the speed boost on your Politoed, but I think that's a trade you're willing to make here. This fast Politoed is not really accomplishing much for you right now. And even though Tommy didn't get the Stomping Tantrum off into it, I don't know that damage is going to be particularly meaningful for the rest of this game. Charizard's still very threatening, right? We saw the Water-type Weather Ball. It still could come in pretty handy. And of course, the Basculegion is immediately threatening those huge last respects. The Politoed probably gets knocked out by it. The Archaludon probably takes a lot of damage. Espatra certainly gets blown away by it. So you have to be very careful about this Basculegion, especially with its Focus Sash still intact.
I still think the play is probably like if you can protect the Archaludon here. Oh, you don't. Okay, never mind. You just don't protect the Archaludon. You're gonna go ahead and let it take this Weather Ball. It does hang on, but the problem is this Basculegion is still going to be faster than you. The last respects was aiming towards the Politoed though, so Espatra is gonna tank the hit instead. Now you gotta hope that you're getting enough mileage out of this Archaludon before the rain comes back in. Dragon Pulse comes out at +1, and it just doesn't get the knockout onto this Basculegion.
And now I believe the Basculegion is going to be faster than Politoed as well. I think we saw that interaction in the first game.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but if it's faster than the Archaludon, it's certainly faster than the Politoed.
Right. Both. Tommy definitely has the speed advantage right now.
And the Weather Ball did so much to that Archaludon. I think another Water-type Weather Ball could take a resisted knockout into this Archaludon. And as long as the Basculegion is able to connect that Lashless Specs into Politoed, it might be another Charizard wins in the rain moment.
I think it might. I mean, that's just the power of this Pokemon. Archaludon is going to go for the Protect, though. You're still going to try to get out of this if you can, as Charizard was opting to threaten a Weather Ball into that position, but Politoed just can't hang on through that last Respects. It's got basically as many boosts as it can with only one ally left in this game, and that's going to be Archaludon's last life as we see the forfeit thrown in.